What's the Next Take podcast, episode 110 with Mikel
and Tanyka.
where we have conversations on different topics. So, we're gonna do the third episode of the series of our Pride Month episode. If you guys haven't checked out the first two, they're available right now. Go check them out right now. Uh, so what is the third episode of our Pride Month series going to be, Tanika?
We're going to be talking about the parades themselves, the pride parades. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Get to it.
All right. So, the Pride Parade, which can also be known as the Pride Event, Pride
Mm-hmm.
Festival, Pride March,
Mm-hmm.
or Pride Protest,
Mm-hmm.
is an event celebrating lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer social and self-acceptance achievements, legal rights, and pride. The events sometimes also serve as demonstrations for legal rights, such as same-sex marriage. Most occur annually through the Western world, while some take place every June to commemorate the 1969 Stonewall Riots in New York City, which we did talk about on our first episode. But it was a pivotal moment in modern LGBTQ social movements. The parades seek to create community and honor the history of the movement. In 1970, Pride and protest marches were held in Chicago, New York City, Los Angeles, and San Francisco around the first anniversary of Stonewall.
Mm-hmm.
The events became annual and grew internationally. In 2019, New York and the world celebrated the largest international pride celebration in history, Stonewall 50, so 50 years in Stonewall,
Uh-huh.
World Pride New York City 2019, commemorating the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. Um, sorry,
Huh.
where was I here? Um, so it had 5 million attending in Manhattan alone, so it's a lot. Pride parades occur in urban locations worldwide, including cities or urban areas in Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Denmark, Finland, France, Israel, Japan, Mexico, and the United States. So
Uh,
we're probably going to break down, if I remember correctly, we're going to break down like some of the like cities, different countries, and kind of how they celebrate. That'll be a little later. So
so do each country celebrate differently, or did it all, celebrate the
Um,
same?
I mean, I think generally speaking, they celebrate the same.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess it also
Obviously,
just depends on what is going on in those countries as well.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Obviously different languages too, so that.
well, that's
Yeah,
without being said,
yeah,
but I don't. That's
yeah.
not the main purpose either way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's 'cause, like if there's like protests
Mm-hmm.
kind of going on, depending on what is going on in whatever country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that could be like the main focus of it, or if it's just celebrating gay pride, that could be the focus of it, right? So it just probably depends on what's going on in the country that,
Right,
you know.
right.
Um, and then also they do, I think, celebrate in different times. That can also happen. Well, we talked about it in the next episode that hasn't obviously come out yet, but we
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
briefly talked about it in the last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Um, kind of the differences of when they will celebrate. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the 1960s and 70s, a surge of public demonstrations in the US focused on civil rights, anti-war movements, and early LGBTQ plus rights activism. One of the first demonstrations for the cause of gay and lesbian rights was a 1965 homophile march by the Machetine, I think is how you say it, Society and Daughters of Bilitis outside the White House, highlighting discrimination and federal employment and advancing LGBTQ plus equality, which is definitely something that still happens today. Also, in 1965, the gay rights protest movement was visible at the annual Reminder Pickets, again organized by members of the lesbian group Daughters of Bilitis and the gay men's group I wish Mattachine, I think it's how you say it, Mattachine
Uh-huh.
Society. Mattachine members were also involved in demonstrations in support of homosexuals imprisoned in Cuban labor camps. Early on the morning of Saturday, June 28th, 1969, LGBTQ people rioted following a police raid on the Stonewall Inn in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Lower Manhattan, New York City. Again, we talked about that in that episode, so I won't go too much more into it. If you want to hear more on that, you can head back over to our first episode where that's more explained.
Uh-huh.
As the movement became more radical in the late 1960s, particularly after the Stonewall Uprising, they were called gay liberation or gay freedom marches, which emphasized demands for full equality and liberation. On June 27th, 1970, the Chicago Gay Liberation organized a march from Washington Square Park to the water tower at the intersection of Michigan and Chicago Avenues, which was the route originally planned, and then many of the participants spontaneously marched on to the Civic Center, now called the Richard J. Daley Plaza. The date was chosen because the Stonewall events began on the last Saturday of June and because organizers wanted to reach the maximum number of Michigan Avenue shoppers. The West Coast of the United States saw a march in San Francisco on June 27th, 1970, and Gay Inn on June 28th, 1970, and a march in Los Angeles on June 28th. So all kind of around that similar time. Um, in Los Angeles, I think it's Kite, who is the Gay Liberation Front LA founder, Reverend Troy Perry, who was the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches founder, and Reverend Bob Humphreys, who was the United States Mission founder, gathered to plan a commemoration. They settled on a parade down Hollywood Boulevard, but securing a permit from the city was no easy task, I can imagine. They named their organization Christopher Street West, as
Uh-huh.
ambiguous as we could be. But
Uh-huh.
Reverend Perry recalled the Los Angeles Police Chief Edward M. Davis telling him, quote, "As far as I'm concerned, granting a permit to a group of homosexuals to parade down Hollywood Boulevard would be the same as giving a permit to a group of thieves and robbers." What?
Uh-huh.
I don't see how
Yes.
that's the same thing at all.
What do you mean? Like in what way?
So he's basically equating
Uh-huh.
the LGBTQ plus community
Uh-huh.
as robbers and thieves,
Huh.
which they're not. They are human beings trying to be,
Yeah.
say,
Okay.
accept us for who we are. And you're basically saying it's no different than giving a permit to robbers and thieves, which
Oh, so he's just basically calling them a name and
he's basically saying you're
just
beneath regular
yeah,
society and
they're
I'm not
disrespectful.
going to give you
Yeah,
anything.
okay. All
Yeah.
right. That person's being disrespectful. I see what you're saying. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
being disrespectful and downright hateful. So
Why would you compare them to things? Well, okay.
because, and again, it was obviously way worse back in the 70s
Uh-huh.
than it is today, but obviously today is not much different in a
Yeah,
lot of ways.
yeah.
But people just don't think anyone who's different from what is quote unquote
Mm-hmm.
normal
Mm-hmm.
um as like I'm better than you is basically it. Like as some cis heterosexual people
Mm-hmm.
are like, I'm better than you because I'm quote unquote normal, whatever that means to you. But yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's because like, did they start a riot or
No,
did,
no. They just wanted a permit to do a parade.
mm-hmm.
Um like I'm sure there was purpose behind doing it, obviously, was to
Mhm.
be liberated, and
Mhm.
that's understandable. Um,
Oh.
but they're not rioting.
Mm.
They're just they
So,
just want to do a
oh,
parade,
wow.
you
So
know?
just going to for permit and they get called
Yeah, because they have
these.
to, yeah, they have to
That makes
legally have a permit to do a
yeah, yeah,
parade. I'm
yeah.
sure that's still the case
So
today.
so this
Yeah,
so they're basically asking for permission. That makes no damn sense. Because if
no,
they didn't ask for permission, they
no
would
one
have just
asked for
done it.
permission to do like,
And
as you're
and
saying, like
I
a riot,
yeah, I
right?
would actually give you a reason to for you to actually say that, but like there's no reason for you to
No,
justify or say something like that towards
no.
they just asked nicely if you can have the parade and then,
But again, it's
say
just
that to
like
the
that
public.
mentality of, you chose to be gay.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to be that way, but this is the life you chose. Like it's just it's othering. That's all it is.
Uh,
It's othering.
uh,
And like I will always say, yes, they've made a lot of strides.
uh-huh.
We're doing a lot better of accepting.
Yeah.
Um, no, there's people out there who don't. But
Yeah.
when you look at like 20 years from this,
Uh-huh.
and again, I'm using Dahmer as an example, but 20 years from this point,
Uh-huh.
you have a 14-year-old child who has been assaulted by a grown ass man,
Uh-huh.
but
Uh-huh.
because you know that grown ass man is gay,
Uh-huh.
you just think, oh, that's gay stuff. So we're not going to deal with that. That's your problem. You see
That's
what I
crazy.
mean? It's
Yeah.
that othering when it's like, we'll never know what that 14-year-old identified as
Uh-huh.
um, when it came to his sexuality. And he'll never get a chance to do that
Right.
because at the end of the day, gay or not, he was 14 years old. So, and those were cops. Cops did that. Cops turned this child back to his assault, to his perpetrator,
Uh-huh.
and then he killed him. So, yeah, that was only 20 years from this point. It was 30 years ago from where we are now, and that's not that long ago when you
Right.
think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So to kind of
Uh-huh.
see this as like
Uh-huh.
what's hurting you,
Huh.
'cause you don't want to see gay men just
Being
being
themselves?
proud of who they are.
Yeah.
That makes you uncomfortable. That's all it
Exactly.
comes down to. It's just like, yeah,
I agree. 100%. You know? Let them be happy.
I'll I'll never understand straight men, especially straight white men,
Yeah.
who have this way of thinking of, oh, you know, I don't want to
Uh-huh.
see it. And it's like, ain't no one trying to come get and talk to you. Ain't no one
Uh-huh.
trying to have anything with you. You're not that
Uh-huh.
important,
Uh-huh.
you know? Like, this is,
Huh.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's get back to this. So, where am I? Okay.
Go ahead.
Grudgingly, the police commission granted the permit. So they did get their permit, though there were fees exceeding $1.5 million.
Uh,
Now, I don't know if that's in today's money, but I'm going to guess that's 1970s money. That
uh-huh.
is a lot of money. That is a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
after the
Sure. Yeah. I sure grew from 1970 to now,
I imagine that 1.5 is 1970, $1.5 million, not 2025.
Yeah.
Um, and that's absolutely that's like hundreds of millions of dollars today. That's
Perhaps I would say
do you have the converter?
yeah, hold on.
Okay.
1970s.
I have to say 1970.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that's what it said.
Let me see. Oh, it would be 12.4 million.
Yeah, that's it's not hundreds of millions, but a lot nonetheless. So that's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
yeah.
Um, After the American Civil Liberties Union stepped in, the commission dropped all its requirements, but a $1,500 fee for police
Uh-huh.
service. So that would have been like having police at the parade,
Uh-huh.
you know, securing the parade. They had to pay $1,500 to do that.
Uh,
Because I don't think every city will have police presence for free.
uh-huh.
I know Toronto has done that in the past. They've actually had police officers, like, take part in the parade, actually, um, here, but that I think that stopped a couple years ago. I don't think police presence was definitely not there, a couple years ago, maybe 2, 3 years ago. They stopped having police presence at the parades, and it's like, that's not safe. That is not safe that police presence isn't gonna be at the parade. Um, Because I mean, shoot, there's never a time where someone isn't getting shot at Caravana. You need to have police presence on the pride parades. It's just a fact. But anyways, um, that's a look into Toronto's Pride Parade. Um, that too was dismissed when the California Superior Court ordered the police to provide protection as they would for any other group. So that $1,500 for the service, they didn't have to pay that either because I guess basically they're saying you would do this with any other group. You're probably expected to do that with any other group. So you need to do it with this one as well, despite how you may feel. Um, the 11th hour California Supreme Court decision um, ordered the police commissioner to issue a parade permit citing the quote constitutional guarantee of freedom and expression. From the beginning, LA parade organizers and participants knew there were risks of violence. Kite received death threats right up to the morning of the parade. Unlike later editions, the first gay parade was very quiet. The marchers convened on McCadden Place in Hollywood, marched north, and turned east onto Hollywood Boulevard. The Advocate reported over 1,000 homosexuals and their friends staged not just a protest march, but a full-blown parade down world-famous Hollywood Boulevard. On June 28th, 1970, at around noon in New York, gay activist groups held their own pride parade, known as the Christopher Street Liberation Day, to recall the events of Stonewall 1 year earlier. On November 2nd, 1969, Woodwell, his partner Fred Sargent, Ellen Brody, and Linda Rhodes proposed the first gay pride parade to be held in New York City by way of resolution at the Eastern Regional Conference of Homophile Organizations meeting in Philadelphia.
Oh,
Um, all attendees to the ERCGO meeting in Philadelphia voted for the march except for the Mattachine Society of New York City, which abstained. Members of the Gay Liberation Front attended the meeting and were seated as guests of Rodwell's group, Homophile Youth Movement in Neighborhoods. Meetings to organize the march began in early January at Rodwell's apartment in 350 Bleecker Street. At first, there was difficulty getting some of the major New York organizations like Gay Activists Alliance to send representatives. Craig Wadwell and his partner Fred Sargent, um, and Michael Brown, Marty Nixon, and Foster Gunnison of Mattachine made up the core group of the CSLD Umbrella Committee.
uh,
For initial funding, Gunnison served as treasurer and sought donations from the national homophile organizations and sponsors, while Sargent solicited donations via the Oscar Wilde Memorial Bookshop customer mailing list, and Nixon worked to gain financial support from GLF in his position as treasurer for that organization. Other mainstays of the GLF organizing committee were Judy Miller, Jack Wolska, Steve Gary, and Brenda Howard. Believing that more people would turn out for the march on a Sunday, and so as to mark the date of the start of the Stonewall Uprising, the CSLDUC scheduled the date for the first march for June 28th, which was a Sunday, 1970, with Dick, oh boy, Litschitz, that could be right, replacement as president of Medellin, New York by Michael Cotis in April 1970. Opposition to the march by Medellin ended. So
Oh,
just to make that clear, the Medellin were basically, I guess, opposed to doing the parade. But then when the kind of the top dude in the organization switched, then the
uh-huh.
opposition ended. So the
Oh,
first marches were both serious and fun, of course, and served to inspire the widening LGBT movement. They were repeated in the following years, and more annual marches started up in other cities throughout the world. In Atlanta and New York City, the marches were called the Gay Liberation Marches, and the day of celebration was called Gay Liberation Day in Los Angeles. In San Francisco, they became known as Gay Freedom Marches, and the day was called Gay Freedom Day.
oh,
As more cities and even smaller towns began holding their own celebrations, these names spread. The rooted ideology behind the parades is a critique of space, which has been produced to seem heteronormative and quote unquote straight, which is what that means. And therefore, any act appearing to be homosexual brings this queer culture into the space. The marches spread internationally, including to London, where the first gay pride rally took place on July 1st, 1972, the date chosen deliberately to mark the third anniversary of the Stonewall Riots. In the 1980s, there was a cultural shift in the gay movement.
oh,
Activists of a less radical nature began taking over the march committees in different cities, and they dropped gay liberation and gay freedom from the names, replacing them with gay pride. The term gay pride was claimed to be coined either by Jack Baker and Michael McConnell, an activist couple in Minnesota, or by Tom Higgins, who's another gay rights activist in Minnesota. The Middle East had its first pride, which is huge, March Pride in 1979 in Israel. The Pride March has grown to over 250,000 participants by 2019. In 2017, the first Pride March week in the Middle East was established in Lebanon. The oldest LGBT community center in South Florida, Pride Lines, has been a partner of Miami Beach Pride for more than a decade. Um, in Southeast Asia, the first Pride March was celebrated on June 26th, 1994. So again, not that long ago, when 30 to 50 individuals marched in, I think it's Quezon City in the Philippines. Less than 3 decades later, the government rejected an equality legislation, sparking the largest pride march in Southeast Asia, where over 110,000 people in 2013 marched in Quezon City in support of the, I think it's Soji Equality Bill. Um, and again, that's really great that at least they can have that in the Philippines. Um, but I do think countries in Asia still have a lot of work to do because LGBT doesn't just mean lesbian or gay, it also means trans.
uh-huh.
Um, and I do know, I don't think it's in every country, but I think of the majority of the countries, um, where if you are transgender, male or female, you cannot legally be identified as the gender of your choice. And you also cannot enter into gay marriage. Most of them do not have that. Um, so there's a lot of work to be done, I think.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, there is.
um, East Asia saw its first Pride March on August 28th, 1994, when a march was held in Tokyo in Japan. The largest ever Pride March in the region was held in 2022 when over 120,000 people marched in Taiwan to support equal rights. The first Pride March in South Asia was held on July 2nd, 1999, in the city of, I think it's Kolkata. Yeah, I'm fine. India. Central Asia's first Pride March was held on May 8th, 2019, in Bishkek. Uh, oh God, when I look at the word, it won't come out, but it's fine. But you'll know where I mean if you're from
Uh-huh,
there.
uh-huh,
So,
uh-huh,
okay. So many parades still have at least some of the original political or
uh-huh,
activist character, especially in less accepting settings. The variation is largely dependent upon the political, economic, and religious setting of the area. However, in more accepting cities, the parades take on a festive or even Mardi Gras like character, whereby the political stage is built on notions of celebration. Large parades often involve floats, dancers, drag queens, and amplified music, but even such celebratory parades usually include political and educational con- contingents, I'm fine, such as local politicians and marching groups from LGBT institutions of various kinds. Other typical parade participants include local LGBT-friendly churches, such as metropolitan community churches, United Church of Christ, and I think it's Unitarian Universalist churches, Flag, and LGBT employee associations from large businesses. Even the most festive parades usually offer some aspect of dedicated to remembering victims of AIDS and anti-LGBT violence. Some particularly important pride parades are funded by governments and corporate sponsors and promoted as major tourist attractions for the cities that host them. In some countries, some pride parades are now also called pride festivals. Some of these festivals provide a carnival like atmosphere in a nearby park or city provided closed off street with information booths, music concerts, barbecues, beer stands, contests, sports, and games.
uh-huh.
The dividing line between onlookers and those marching in the parade can be hard to establish. In some events, however, in cases where the event is received with hostility, such as a separation, becomes very obvious. There have been studies considering how the relationship between participants and onlookers is affected by the divide and how space is used to critique the heteronormative nature of society. Though the reality was that the Stonewall riots themselves, as well as the immediate and the ongoing political organizing that occurred following them, were events fully participated in by lesbian women, bisexual people, and transgender people, as well as by gay men of all races and backgrounds. Historically, these events were first named gay, the word at that time being used in a more generic sense to cover the entire spectrum of what is now variously called the queer or LGBT community. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, as many of the actual participants had grown older, moved on to other issues, or died, this passage of time led to misunderstandings as to who had actually participated in Stonewall riots, had actually organized the subsequent demonstrations, marches, and memorials, and who had been members of early activist organizations such as Gay Liberation Front and Gay Activist Alliance. I imagine a lot of them potentially could have died from AIDS as well.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's also probably a reality. The language has become more accurate and inclusive, though these changes met with initial resistance from some in their own communities who were unaware of the historical events. Changing first to lesbian and gay, today most are called lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender LGBT, or simply Pride. Pride parades are held in many urban areas, as we it's talked about, and in many countries where the urbanization rate is at least 80%. So now we're going to kind of talk about the pride parades or events by country.
Uh-huh.
So we'll start with like the continent, and then we'll talk about some of the countries in that continent. Not talking about every single one, but some. So
Okay.
let's start with Africa. So in Malawi, I think it's Malawi, which I've never heard of this country before.
Right.
On June 26, 2021, a community of the LGBT community in Malawi, I think it's Malawi,
Hmm.
held its first Pride parade. So 4 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. The parade was held in the country's capital city. I think it's Lil Ugly. So that's that.
I wonder what the percentage of um the uh people who are LGBTQ.
In like Africa in general, or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, there's definitely they exist.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think
Because you just
it's
yeah.
I don't think it's I honestly I don't know. I haven't come across many
Uh-huh.
um uh people who identify, we'll just say, as queer,
Uh-huh.
but I will say, at least from a perspective of a person whose family is Caribbean in some sort,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
versus like I've dated quite a bit of African men.
Yeah.
Um,
So I know a lot of like African people don't play when it comes to, when it comes to that.
I
Because like,
mean, I
yeah.
haven't really encountered at least the
'Cause-
African people I've encountered, which again, like I've said, been around. I've been
yeah.
around the continent. Um, and I've had friends as well that
Mm-hmm.
were African.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't come across a lot of people who outwardly disrespect the community.
Mm-hmm.
Again, my boyfriend being South African, we've talked about it. Like I said, I've kind of talked about it a little bit on this podcast too.
Mm-hmm.
He is pretty accepting for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
I think you kind of always deal with the straight man mentality when it comes to the gay community,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of just being like, "Listen, I accept it, but I don't want it around me," kind of thing. And it's like, again, you're not that
Mm-hmm.
special,
Mm-hmm.
but I still don't think he is even that like, so keep it away from me type mentality. He's pretty accepting, from my perspective, anyways. He's pretty accepting. Like I said, my ex-husband, not so much, and he's Jamaican, which of
Yeah.
course,
And that's I feel like that I feel like the percentage there is probably a little low compared to like the other.
here's what I'll say about Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the citizens are not accepting. Um, Again, like, just kind of knowing my ex-husband and knowing kinda what his mindset is on it. His I swear his thing is just kind of like, "I don't understand a man who doesn't want pussy,"
Mm-hmm.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like, but not every that's not even about a woman. It's just what they're attracted to, just like you're attracted to what you're attracted to, so you're a man who likes to be with women, both they're men or women or whatever, who like to be with same sex. This has nothing to do with they don't you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And not I don't know. That's kind of his mentality a little bit, I think, like I said, and it's just like, who gives a shit kind of thing. But I do remember seeing like this Jamaican man who kind of, he would be on the scene and he would dance, and he was, um, I think, pretty openly gay.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding, he was killed many years ago for being gay. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Mhm.
no, I think the rate is either really low
Mhm.
or kind of piggybacking off of what we talked about. I think we talked about it with our AIDS episode,
Mhm.
was being on the down low with
Right.
it.
Yeah.
They're not outwardly talking about
Mhm.
being gay or at least wanting to have sex with men or
Right.
women or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. 'Cause,
I
yeah.
look,
Yeah.
say what you're gonna say.
You know that we encounter the older generation when it comes to like uh the LGBT community, and they don't care about that stuff. Like they believe in
Yeah.
like the heterosexual culture. A lot of the
Hmm.
stuff like and they some of them. I'm not gonna say all of them.
Mm.
Do tie it to religion, and
I was literally
like
gonna
I said,
say a lot of it's
yeah,
religion too. Hmm.
yeah, and they tell you that the Bible said you're not supposed to do
Hmm.
this to another man, da da this, da
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
and it's just like, why do you listen to like at times I want to ask, why do you listen to a book versus not your feelings? So,
Because
I
it's not just about a book. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I mean,
yeah,
think about like when I think about my family and
mhm,
their religious views,
yeah, yeah,
and think of it from that perspective. It's just like it's not about the Bible, right? It's
yeah,
about God says you're not supposed to do this. But guess what else God says you're not supposed to do?
mhm,
We're not supposed to have premarital sex. We're not supposed to do sex is meant for reproductive purposes.
yeah,
That's it. Yet, us straight people have no issues doing that.
mhm,
You know what I mean? Even those people who are devoutly Christian or Catholic or whatever you
mhm,
identify as,
mhm,
y'all do it.
mhm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's the thing with like I wouldn't say my ex-husband is devout in his religion.
mhm,
He's Seventh-day Adventist. It always seems like the parents are pretty devout in it,
mhm,
but it's like you're okay having premarital sex. You're okay to cheat too, because let's be very real. He cheated on me in our marriage, but it is what it is. And prior to that or whatever, so it doesn't matter. But it's okay to do all those things. But because God says you're not supposed to have sex with the same sex or whatever, it's like,
mhm.
oh, that's bad. But so is all the other things according to religion.
Yeah, well, yeah. If
We
you,
pick and choose. All
yeah,
religions do it though.
yeah, I do agree. A lot of people just pick and choose. Like, I just don't understand that. It just makes no
It
sense. I
it's
apologize. Yeah,
all religions pick
yeah,
and choose.
I
We're all
apologize.
guilty of it.
I apologize for just saying that it's just a book, but like, it's just like,
No, I know what you're saying.
it's just infuriating when someone just like, just like, just they don't have their own mindset, or
Mm-mm,
they don't have their own don't think for themselves, right?
mm,
And then uh I understand getting knowledge from a book, but
mm.
just taking that knowledge, you just be yourself, because you never know who who's part of the LGBT community, your neighbor, your friend, or your daughter, your son.
Mhm.
Uh, you just never know. So I just, like I said, it's okay to, get information from a book. It's just like taking it too far to a dark place. You don't want to do that. So,
Yeah, but I
that's
also
just
think
my opinion.
people don't care. You know what I mean? People
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
think how they think, feel how they feel, and are unwilling to change
Hmm.
those thoughts and feelings about something they've, for whatever reason. And sometimes religion isn't even the reason.
Hmm.
But it's one reason for certain people. And
Hmm.
it's like at the end of the day, let's not forget. Like I know it's like a rumor
Mhm.
and people are just like blasphemous when you say things like this. And it was just like certain things we're told we're not supposed to do, no
Mhm.
matter what religion you're in. But I'm going to talk about the religion I know that I grew up in. There's all kinds of talk about the fact that Jesus and Mary Magdalene had a sexual relationship.
Mhm.
So if Jesus himself could have potentially, you know, dipped his stick in whatever,
Mhm.
because he
Mhm.
was a, at the end of the day, they said, yeah, he's God's son, but he was still a man for 30 odd years that he was on the earth. Um, then if he can do that and still be all divine or whatever, then we can do it and we're going to be just fine. We're not, we're not going to hell. We're not, none of those things. I feel like there are so many things in life that could potentially stop you from going to the pearly gates. But having sex with the same sex or having premarital sex or whatever,
Mhm.
low on the totem pole. Low on the totem pole. And no one gives a
Mhm.
shit. And I'm gonna say this again. I'm giving credit to where credit is due, but it's something that I live by at this point in my life.
Mhm.
The podcast that I listen to, Reality Gaze, again, hosted by two gay men.
Mhm.
One of the things that they have said, and I have carried it on in my life, and I have told other people the same thing, because I think everyone needs to hear this.
Mhm.
Jesus doesn't care if you suck a dick.
Mhm.
Now that last word is going to get bleeped out. Use your imagination. But God does not care. And it's true. And the thing is, it's like, yes, you can take that in a literal sense, but you can also just take it in the general sense of God has more things to worry about than what quote unquote sins you're committing or what quote unquote sins you think people are committing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, God doesn't care.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't because otherwise I'm going to hell. Anyway,
Mm. Go
let's
ahead.
go back to this.
Mm.
So, we talked about the one African country. So, South Africa. The first South African Pride Parade was held towards the end of the Apartheid, I think is how you say it, era in Johannesburg on October 13th, 1990. So again,
Mm.
still before my time, but not that much before my time.
Mhm.
My boyfriend was not even 2 years old yet, but he was born. So in that reality in my brain, I'm like, that's not that long ago. But okay. The first such event on the African continent. So South Africa held the first of this kind in the entire continent in 1990. Um, Section 9 of the country's 1996 constitution provides for equality and freedom from discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation, among other factors. The Joburg Pride organizing body disbanded in 2013 due to internal conflict about whether the event should continue to be used for political advocacy. A new committee was formed in May 2013 to organize a people's pride, which was envisioned as an inclusive and explicitly political movement for social justice. Other pride parades held in the Johannesburg area include Soweto Pride, which takes place annually in Meadowlands, Soweto. Oh, God. Okay. I should have ran these words by my boyfriend to help me with pronunciation. Cool. Okay. Ekurhuleni, I think is how you say it, Pride, which takes place annually in Kothima, a township on the East Rand. Pride parades held in other South African cities include the Cape Town Pride Parade and Kuambo Lani Pride in Cape Town, Durban Pride in Durban, and Nelson Mandela Bay Pride in Port Elizabeth.
Mm.
Limpopo Pride is held in Polokwane, Limpopo. I hope I said those words correctly. Move on
Mm,
to the next country, Uganda. In August 2012, the first Ugandan Pride Parade was held in Entebbe, Entebbe to protest the government's treatment of its LGBT citizens and the attempts by the Ugandan parliament to adopt harsher sodomy laws. Wow.
mm,
Colloquially named the, oh, trigger warning for this, guys. Kill the Gays Bill. So that's an actual bill name, or was potentially going to be an actual bill name,
uh-huh,
which would include life imprisonment for aggravated homosexuality. Y'all, I don't know, did you ever watch what's the movie called? King of Scots, I think is what it was called. It had Kerry Washington was in it. Um I think Forrest Whitaker, he was in it as well. It's an older movie. Not older, but like maybe early 2000s. Did you ever watch that movie?
um, no, I haven't watched that movie. No.
Okay. I think I'm saying the correct name of the movie. I think
Mm,
it's called King of Scots. It's based in Uganda. It's a true story. Um, and I don't exactly remember what time it was. Um, I can't remember much because listen, spoiler alert from what I'm about to say. It's an older movie, so it is what it is. When Kerry Washington's character gets killed in this and how she was killed in this, I was like, I can't. This movie
mm,
is too much. And the fact that this is real, like this is a true story, is just, it's absolutely mind-boggling. Um, but they would in that movie, which I'm gonna guess it was based in the 90s, maybe even 80s, but I'm gonna say 90s. And I heard that being gay was illegal in Uganda. And I'm just like, ah, how? Like, I know, like, in countries in like the 30s, 40s, that yes, it was illegal to be gay. But to hear that that was happening in Uganda pretty recently in comparison, it's insane. So, yeah, clearly in 2013, not much had changed in that department. Um, so the law was promulgated in December 2013 and subsequently ruled invalid by the Constitutional Court of Uganda on August 1st, 2014, on technical grounds. On August 9th, 2014, Ugandans held a third Pride parade in Entebbe, despite indications that the ruling may be appealed and or the law reintroduced in Parliament and homosexual acts still being illegal in the country. So you could be gay,
yeah.
but as soon as you actually act on being gay
Mm-hmm.
was a crime. They take that into
Mm,
perspective. That's insane. Anyway,
cool.
let's move
Yeah.
out of the continent of Africa and move into Asia.
Yeah. Asia. Yeah.
So East Timor, the first
Mm,
Pride March in East Timor's capital, Dili, was held in 2017.
mm,
So not too long ago.
mm,
Hong Kong, the first International Day Against Homophobia Pride Parade in Hong Kong was held on May 16th, 2005, under the theme, quote, Turn Fear into Love, calling for acceptance and care amongst gender and sexual minorities in a diverse and friendly society.
mm,
The Hong Kong Pride Parade 2008 boosted the rally count above 1,000 and the second largest East Asian Pride after Taipei's. By now, a firmly annual event, prior to 2013 saw more than 5,200 participants. The city continues to hold the event every year, except in 2010 when it was not held due to a budget shortfall. And I imagine during COVID as well. In the Hong Kong Pride Parade 2018, the event broke its previous record with 12,000 participants. The police arrested a participant who violated the law of outraging public decency by wearing only his underwear in an area of the road cordoned off for the parade. Hey, Whatever.
Hmm.
India. So on June 29th, 2008, four Indian cities,
Hmm.
Delhi, Bangalore, oh God, Pondicherry, I think, and Kolkata,
Hmm.
saw coordinated pride events. About 2,200 people turned up overall. These were also the first pride events of all of these cities except Kolkata, which
Hmm.
had seen its first such event in 1999, as we discussed earlier, making
Hmm.
it South Asia's first pride walk and then had been organizing pride events every year since
So
2003.
yeah, India is another country that I say
Mhm.
I feel like Africa and India are just like, you know, in terms of like, culture wise.
Like being
It's like,
accepting.
yeah, yeah, not being accepting
If anything,
towards
I
it.
feel like India would be worse.
Yes. Whereas
I do think
Asia,
India would be
no.
worse.
Asia not real because
Um,
I mean, yeah, the Asian parents,
I think
but like I feel like if you're talking about Asia altogether, you're not just
mm,
talking about Hong Kong, you're talking about China, you're talking about Japan, you're talking about Thailand.
remember, India is also a part
Yeah,
of Asia. Russia is also a
yeah,
part of
yeah,
Asia.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when you're talking Asia, you're talking like
And,
Philippines,
hmm.
China.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I understand what you're saying, but just remember there is other parts of Asia as well
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
may
yeah,
not be as accepting.
yeah,
But
yeah.
um the thing that I will say about maybe like China and Japan and those kind of like, yes, I do think they'd be more accepting
Mm-hmm.
to like a degree.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I think with India, I don't even know if it's so much that they wouldn't be accepting. I think again, it's about religion,
Mm-hmm.
right? The difference I feel with like China, Japan, Thailand, so on and so
Hmm.
forth,
Yeah, yeah.
is a lot of them are usually Buddhist. The mass majority is usually Buddhist. And I feel like Buddhism is more just about like acceptance
Hmm.
and um it's such a peaceful religion that I feel like they don't give a you know, be happy doing what you're doing. That's what I feel. Maybe I'm incorrect, but I always felt like Buddhism is such a peaceful religion. Um, but then when you're kind of dealing with Indian, or we'll talk about India for now. Now, Buddhism originated from India. You know the history of Buddhism. It does originate from India, but a lot of them are not Buddhists anymore in modern culture. They're Hindu or Catholic as well. Catholic is also still pretty big in India as well. But what to say majority is Hindu. They are, you know, very similarly to other religions, Muslim,
Hmm.
Christianity. Um, yes, their mindset is you get married, you have kids. A lot of it's arranged marriages as well, right? In India, arranged marriages still happen today. So it's just like the idea is you get married, you have children. That is what you're supposed to do. The mindset is, well, if you're in a same-sex relationship, you're not going by things traditionally. You're not having kids, where we
Hmm.
know that that's not true. You can still have kids. But that's just the mindset of like an older generation, right? Um, again, this is not a similar situation, but for those people who watch 90 Day Fiance, and as soon as I say that, you're thinking Submit and Jenny. Now, for Mikel, so you have context. Jenny is 30 years his senior.
Hmm.
So when he married her or was, still dating her before they were married, his parents had a fit. And the reasons behind that, yes, number one was, well, she's an oldie. Those are his father's words.
Hmm.
You can't have children with her because she's done having children. But the other part
Mm,
of it is, how is society going to look on us as a family? Because whatever someone is doing, it affects the entire family and how people view the entire family. So if you have a child who's gay,
right.
imagine what that means for how society views the family. You know what I mean? So I think
Mm,
it's so multi-layered, I think, with how people will view LGBT community in India. Um, yeah,
mm,
yeah. But and also like just to lighten it up a little bit, just
mhm.
for a second. I think you said you don't like Russell Peters, right?
Yeah, not much of that. He's not
Okay.
that funny. No.
Well, back in the day when he would, target, different cultures and stuff like that and make fun of
Mm,
it, I always thought it was hilarious because he was
mm,
pretty point on when it came to Jamaicans, gotta admit.
mhm,
But he does have this, he said they have this one joke that's an older joke
mhm.
where he was kind of watching the parade or on TV or something with his father.
Right.
And if you know, he's obviously, I think he's Bangladeshan, I think, but I could be wrong. I think he's Indian. No, he's Indian. Um, and his dad was just, they're watching, they see these two Indian gay men on the television. His
Hmm.
father's like, they're they're Indian, they can't be gay. And Russell Peters is like, well, the country is huge. We can use a couple gay men. Like, come on.
Mm,
And it's funny, but it's just like that just kind of goes to show the mentality of they're Indian, they can't be gay. Well, why
right.
not? Why can't they be gay? That makes no sense.
Hmm.
Anyone can be gay.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
um,
Yeah.
so where was it? Okay, so although there was a gap of a year or so in between, so
Hmm.
the 2003, so the Pride parades were successful, given that no right-wing group attacked or protested against the Pride parade, although the
Hmm.
opposition party BJP expressed its disagreement with the concept of Gay Pride Month. The next day, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, sorry if I said your name wrong, appealed for greater social tolerance towards homosexuals at an AIDS event on August 16th, 2008, one day after the Independence Day of India. The gay community in Mumbai held its first ever formal pride parade, although informal pride parades had been held many times earlier, to demand that India's anti-gay laws be amended. A high court in the Indian capital, Delhi, ruled on July 2nd, 2009, that homosexual sorry, that's my space. I'm supposed to last by here. Homosexual intercourse between consenting adults was not a criminal act. Thank you.
Mm,
Like I'll never understand like certain countries we talked about like with Uganda. Sodomy. Sodomy, I know it's a technical term. It's the maybe the proper term. But when I hear sodomy, it's just like it's so, it feels like sodomy should only be held for something that is unconsented,
uh-huh.
not when two people consent to having anal sex.
Right.
So it's just like, I hate that. So I'm happy that like you're two consenting adults. Who are we to get involved?
Mhm.
So I agree with that.
Right. Yeah.
Um, Although the Supreme Court later, oh God, guys, we had a moment. We're going backwards.
Mhm.
Although the Supreme Court later reversed its decision in 2013 under widespread pressure from powerful conservative and religious groups, leading to the recriminalization of homosexuality in India. Now, I do wonder, though, seeming as they said it's not the law's business who is having consensual sex,
Uh-huh.
but I do wonder, like, even if like you are having gay sex, which I'm hoping if you are having gay sex, like you're doing it privately where hopefully no one will find you.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I wonder if they would even jail you or if they'll just like maybe fine you and you can fight that.
Uh-huh.
But like this seems absolutely just ridiculous and a waste of court's time. And like
Right.
that bogs down the system, I would think.
Yeah.
Um, so pride parades have also been held in smaller Indian cities such as Nagpur, Midori, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that I'm not, you know what? Those are the countries, the towns I'm saying because the other two are brutal. Attendance at the Pride parades has been increasing significantly since 2008, with an estimated participation of 3,500 people in Delhi and 1,500 people in Bangalore in
Mm-hmm.
2010. On September 6, 2018, sex between same-sex adults was legalized by India's Supreme Court. So they did, do the
Mm-hmm.
right thing eventually. Israel. So Tel Aviv hosts an annual Pride parade,
Mm-hmm.
attracting more than 260,000 people, making it the largest LGBT Pride event in Asia. Three Pride parades took place in Tel Aviv. Is Israel in Asia? It was Middle East.
Mm.
Am I wrong?
Israel?
Yeah, where is Israel? I didn't think it was in Asia.
I
Listen,
don't
geography is not
know.
my
I don't
strong
know if it's
suit.
in Asia.
I never thought it
I don't.
was. Unless it's like like closer to like the Middle East. But where
It's
the
closer to the middle. Yeah,
closer to the
Middle
Middle
East.
East. But is it in Asia?
It's a country West Asia.
West Asia. Okay.
Let's see, part of the yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that
Israel
makes
is part
sense.
of the continent of Asia. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Especially in the region called the Middle East.
Oh,
I always thought it was part of like Europe, but yeah,
I
West
knew it
Asia.
wasn't a
Yeah.
part of Europe, but I definitely didn't know it was a part of um
Hmm.
Asia.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, where was I? Okay. So three Pride parades took place in Tel Aviv on the week of June 11th, 2010. The main parade, which is also partly funded by the city's municipality, was one
Mm,
of the largest ever to take place in Israel, with approximately 200,000 participants. The first Pride parade in Tel Aviv took place in 1993. On June 30th, 2005, the fourth annual Pride March of Jerusalem took place. The Jerusalem parade has been met with resistance due to the high presence of religious bodies in the city. Definitely. It had originally been prohibited by a municipal ban, which was canceled by the court. Many of the religious leaders of Jerusalem's Muslim, Jewish, and Christian communities had arrived at a rare consensus asking the municipal government to cancel the permit of the parades.
mm,
So, like, not only are you dealing with just like one religion, you're dealing with like three,
right.
three major religions that
Mm,
definitely have their views on
mm,
same-sex relationships.
mm.
So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. Um, Another parade, this time billed as an international event, was scheduled to take place in the summer of 2005, but was postponed to 2006 due to the stress on police forces during the summer of Israel's unilateral disengagement plan. In
Mm,
2006, it was again postponed due to the Israel-Hezbollah war. It was scheduled to take place in Jerusalem on November 10th, 2006, caused a wave of protests by Haredi Jews around central Israel. The Israel National Police had filed a petition to cancel the parade due to foreseen strong opposition. Later, an agreement was reached to convert the parade into an assembly inside the Hebrew University Stadium in Jerusalem. On June 21st, 2007, the Jerusalem Open House organization succeeded in staging a parade in central Jerusalem after police allocated thousands of personnel to secure the general area. The rally
mm,
planned afterwards was canceled due to an unrelated National Fire Brigade strike, which prevented proper permits from being issued. The parade was postponed once more in 2014 as a result of Protective Edge operation. In 2022, local environmentalists from Tel Aviv started planning how to make the current year's parade and future parades more sustainable using composting stations and removing single-use plastic from the largest pride parade in the Middle East.
mm.
Japan. The first Pride Parade in Japan was held on August 28th, 1994 in Tokyo, which the names were not Pride Parade until 2007. In 2005, an administrative institution, the Tokyo Pride, was founded to have Pride Parade constantly every year. In May 2011, Tokyo Pride was dissolved, and most of the original management went on to found Tokyo Rainbow Pride. Lebanon.
Uh-huh.
Beirut Pride is the annual nonprofit LGBTQ plus Pride event and militant march held in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon, working to decriminalize homosexuality in Lebanon. Since its inception in 2017, Beirut Pride has been the first and only LGBTQ plus Pride in the Arabophone, I think I said that right, world, and its largest LGBTQ plus event. It has been the topic of four MA theses, or I think, yeah, one postdoctoral research and six documentaries, so far covered in 17 languages and 350 articles. Its first installment gathered 4,000 persons, and 2,700 people participated in the first 3 days of its 2018 edition before the police cracked it down and arrested its founder, Haiti Damien. The next day, the prosecutor of Beirut suspended the scheduled activities and initiated criminal proceedings against Haiti for organizing events, quote, that incite to debauchery.
Huh.
Beirut Pride holds annual events adopted to the current circumstances in the country.
Huh.
So it's kind of like I was saying before, I guess, whatever the parade or whatever is going to be about, I guess it's always dependent on the country and what's going on. So I guess Lebanon kind of does more of that. South Korea. Queer culture festivals in South Korea consist of pride parades and various other LGBT events, such as film festivals. Currently, there are 8 queer culture festivals, including Seoul Queer Culture Festival since 2000, Daegu Queer Culture Festival since 2009, Busan Queer Culture Festival 2017, Jeju Queer Culture Festival since 2017, and so on and so forth. I'm not gonna name them all, but they're all um, film festivals.
Uh,
So that's how they kind of do it.
huh.
Um, I know Nepal was quickly saying Nepal Pride is organized on June 29th every year. Um, so there are also pride parades organized by Blue Diamond Society and Matini, Nepal. So it's kind of, I'm not going to say more about that because it's a lot. So we'll move on to the Philippines. In 1992, the Lesbian Collective marched during the International Women's Day celebrations, anticipated in the program after negotiations with organizers. That's a little different than the other ones we talked about. Um, I'll, I'll say this. In 1995, pro-gay Philippines and MCC did not lead a pride parade. In 1996, 1997, and 1998, large and significant marches were organized and produced by Reach Out AIDS Foundation, all of which were held in Manila, Philippines. These pride parades were organized a celebration of gay pride, but also were parading to raise awareness for discrimination and the misinformation surrounding AIDS.
Uh,
Um, okay, so the Philippines is a little long, so we'll just move on to
yep.
Singapore. A
Uh-huh.
pride parade known as Pink.SG has been held in Singapore since 2009, with increasing attendance amounting to the tens of thousands. They're often held in either June or July. It is one of the largest such pride events in Southeast Asia, with attendance reaching up to 35,000.
Mm.
Um, let's see what Taiwan does here. Um, they do their pride parade in October, so it's a little different. Recently in 2019, the 17th Taiwan LGBT parade is the first gay parade after Taiwan's same-sex marriage legislation, with attendances of over 200,000, which are the largest such event in East Asia. Fun fact, Taiwan is probably one of the only countries in Asia. Sure,
Mhm.
I think there are others, but it looks like they're one of the only ones
Mhm.
that um allow same-sex marriages.
Right.
Thailand, the first ever Bangkok Pride Parade occurred on June 6, 2022, 3 years
Yeah.
ago,
Yeah. 2022.
2022.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
It's-
Yep.
wow.
Yep.
I would think they were
I would think they
pretty
would have been before.
ahead of the curve because like
Yeah.
there's a lot of trans
As they call them, which I absolutely hate
lady
this
boy,
word,
yeah,
lady
lady boys,
boys.
yeah,
But
yeah. But I
I
guess it was
do,
illegal.
I don't know so much of that it's illegal
Yeah.
because I don't think it's illegal. But what I do think it's kind of maybe very
Uh-huh.
like an underground type
Yeah.
thing where you
Uh,
have, you know, men from, we'll say America, but definitely other countries, not just
mhm,
America,
uh.
um, that go to Thailand in order to have sex with quote unquote ladyboys.
Yeah,
Um,
what you call those type of guys? Passport boys?
I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. And there's
Um,
and there's some like, rich guys who can't find traditional relationships or traditional marriages that look for
right.
uh
But
like yeah,
I also
overseas.
think it's like sex tourism. I think
Yeah, that too.
it's also the fetishization
Hmm.
of Thai people in general.
And yeah, and wanting something. So like your visa to go to America, like a lot of people from Thailand
Well,
wishing.
yes and no, though, because I think a lot of those men who seek out these transgender women in Thailand,
Or women, yeah.
they're seeking them out.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around,
Mm,
you know? Um, so I'm sure in some circumstances, yes, that could be what's going on.
hmm
But I think 9 times out of 10, these are white, rich, powerful men, most
hmm
of them,
hmm
that are going to Thailand to take advantage
Right.
of, you know, the people there. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Excuse me. Oh, oh,
Um, so Vietnam, on August
uh-huh.
3rd, 2012, the first LGBT Viet Pride event was held in Hanoi, Vietnam, with
Uh-huh.
indoor activities such as film screenings, research presentations, and a bicycle rally on August 5th, 2012, that attracted almost 200 people riding to support the LGBT cause. Viet Pride was since expanded, now taking place in 17 cities and provinces in Vietnam in the first weekend of August, attracting around 700 bikers in 2014 in Hanoi, and was reported on many mainstream media channels. Okay, so let's move on to Europe.
Uh-huh.
Um, they kind of just generally speaking talk about Southeastern Europe. So the
Uh-huh.
first Southeastern European Pride, called the International Pride, was assumed to be a promotion of the human right to freedom of assembly in Croatia and some
Uh-huh.
Eastern European states, where such rights of the LGBT population are not respected, and a support for organizing the first prides in those communities.
Uh-huh.
Um, so let's kind of just go to some of the countries here. So Bulgaria, like the other countries from the Balkans, Bulgaria's population is very conservative when it comes to issues like sexuality. Although homosexuality was discriminalized in 1968, people with different sexual orientations and identities are still not well accepted in society.
Uh-huh.
In 2003, the country enacted several laws protecting the LGBTQ community and individuals from discrimination. In 2008, Bulgaria organized its first ever Pride Parade. The almost 200 people who had gathered were attacked by skinheads. So
Huh.
again, not that much of a turnaround, but the
Right.
people who did show up were attacked. But police managed to prevent any injuries, so it's really good. The 2009 Pride Parade, with the motto Rainbow Friendship, attracted more than 300 participants from Bulgaria and tourists from Greece and Great Britain. There were no disruptions, and the parade continued as planned. A third Pride parade took place successfully in 2010 with close to 800 participants in an outdoor concert event. So, they were slowly growing.
Mm-hmm.
Croatia, their first Pride parade was held on June 29th, 2002 in Zagreb and has been held annually ever since. Um, so their attendance actually started off with 350 in 2002 to 15,000 in 2013. So it grew a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we'll just say quickly Czech Republic, because I actually cut some of this off, but the Prague Pride Festival first took place in 2011. So that's no, that's not great, but before
Mm-hmm.
it, Pride parades took place in several other cities in the Czech Republic, but now nowhere did they turn into a regular tradition. The first year was attended by 8,000 people. Since then, the number of participants has increased. Before the pandemic, a total of 90,000 people visited the festival week and accompanying events, while 40,000 visited the Saturday parade. Um, so we'll leave that there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Denmark, they have their Pride Festival.
Mm-hmm.
It's held every year in August. Um, so its current format has been held every year since 1996. So that's good. Oh, it
Mm-hmm.
was in Copenhagen. That's where it was. Um, so where else do we have? Finland, the happiest place in the country because they have the shortest work week. The Helsinki
Mm-hmm.
Pride was first organized in 1975. So
Also, they were ahead.
they were not really ahead. They kind of were not too far off from the first one that happened in 1970 and after Stonewall.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, they're definitely doing a lot better than the other countries we've talked about.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they call it Freedom Day.
They call
So
it Freedom Day.
they call it Freedom Day. I kind of
Okay.
like it though, because like one of my favorite songs is by George Michael, Freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just, anyone who know, do you know that song? First of all,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do.
yeah, I know that song. Yeah.
Okay, good. It's just about him, being free and who he is. So I kind of like
Mm-hmm.
them calling it Freedom Day.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
anyways,
Mm-hmm.
um, it has grown into the biggest Nordic Pride event. Between 20,000 and 30,000 people participate in the Pride and its events annually, including a number of international participants from the Baltic countries and Russia. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
France,
Mm-hmm.
which was one of the probably the first countries that were definitely a little bit more accepting of, gay people in general, um, back when it was illegal in other countries in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Paris Pride hosts an annual gay pride parade the last Saturday in June
Mm-hmm.
with attendances of over 800,000 people.
Oh, okay.
18 other parades take place at the cities throughout
Mm-hmm.
France in Angers, Baratis, and other places that I'm just not even going to bother because my French
Mm-hmm.
is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll say Germany. Their first one took place on June 30th, 1979. So, not too bad either for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Greece, they in main endeavors were made during the 1980s and 1990s to organize such an event, but it was not until 2005 that Athens Pride was established. So, what went wrong in the 80s and 90s and 5 years into the millennium? Like,
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, I guess I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe they didn't improve. Like, like I said, different, different countries, different cultures. So like, yeah.
Yeah. Um, Iceland, they had their first one was in 1999.
Huh?
Um, so
So,
a little later. Um, let's go over to Italy because this one's a little more interesting just because I know it was gay to be illegal in Italy. Or it was illegal to be gay in Italy,
mhm.
um, in like the 30s. So,
1930s?
mhm. Like, do you know
Yeah,
Salvador Dali?
yeah, no, I'm not surprised by that because
Yeah,
Italy, they embrace it. They,
very
they,
conservative,
yeah,
very Catholic.
yeah,
So yeah,
they embrace which is good.
they're the Catholics
Yeah,
in the world.
yeah.
Um, so the first public demonstration within the LGBT community in Italy took place in San Remo on April 5th,
Mhm,
1972. So it's not
mhm,
bad.
mhm.
As a protest against the International Congress on Sexual Deviance. Wait,
So you said
sexual.
1930s or 1970s?
So it was illegal to be gay in the 30s. I'm not sure when that's ended.
Mm-hmm.
It was illegal. And then they did the first public, so okay, I'm reading this wrong. The first public demonstration within the LGBT community in Italy took place in San Remo on April 5th as a protest against the International Congress. Okay, so the International Congress had sexual deviance.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we know that's bad for
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Was organized by the Catholic-inspired Italian Center of Sexology. Okay. The event was attended by about 40 people belonging to various homophile groups, including ones from France, Belgium, Great Britain's Gay Liberation Front, and Italy's activist homosexual rights group. Um, so this is interesting. I'm going to keep reading this. The first Italian events associated with international celebrations of gay pride was the Sixth Congress of Furore, held in Turin in late June 1978, and included a week of films on gay subjects.
Mm-hmm.
Episodes of violence against homosexuals were frequent in Italy, such as in the summer of 1979, when two young gay men were killed in Livorno.
Mm-hmm.
In Pisa, in November of that year, the Orfeo Collective organized the first march against anti-gay violence. Around 500 gay and lesbian participants attended, and this remained the largest gathering of the kind until 1994.
Mm-hmm.
Later, a system of national pride observances designated one city to hold the official events, starting with Rome in 1994. Starting in 2013, the organization Onda Pride organized additional events, and in 2019, events were organized in 39 cities nationwide. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what they dealt with. Um, so in the Netherlands, Amsterdam, the first Pride parade was held in 1996.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Poland, the oldest Pride parade in Poland, the Equality Pride in Warsaw, has been organized since 2001. So it's the oldest, but it's not that old. So yeah, they're
Mm-hmm.
pretty
Mm-hmm.
conservative in Poland
Mm-hmm.
as well, though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's see what else we got here. Russia, they consider Russia Europe. That's definitely in Asia.
Russia.
Anyways, yeah, no, they're
Yes.
definitely Asia.
You think they're in
Not
Asia?
Yes. Yes. They are in Russia is an Asian country.
Yes.
100%. I'm suck at geography, but I'm not that bad. They're not far, obviously, they're not far from Ukraine, which technically Ukraine, although not officially, is a part of Europe.
It's a span of both Europe and Asia.
Yeah, but they're
Well,
I feel like they're
25%
mainly in
in
Asia. But yeah, like
seven,
part of because they connect to Ukraine. I do know
yeah,
that,
approximately
obviously.
seven,
You know the
approximately 75% of its land mass is located in Asia,
Yeah,
and then 25% is in Europe.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that makes
Mm,
sense.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyways, I guess the
also,
25% here is making it into the
I
European.
always thought it was just part of Europe. Like it's
No,
like it's
no,
Russia, Germany, and like and then the
no,
UK and United like
no, they're definitely
okay.
mainly Asia. Yeah. Um, so prides in Russia are
Mhm.
generally banned by city
Mhm.
authorities in St. Petersburg and Moscow due to opposition from
Not surprised.
politicians and religious leaders. Are we surprised? No.
They're Russians.
They're Russians.
Just, they're they can be stubborn. That's just
Stubborn.
yeah.
Stubborn is so not the word,
Stubborn and
but
strong. Stubborn and strong
mhm.
people.
I
They'll,
don't know
they,
about, I don't know about strong, but okay.
don't mess with no, you not don't mess with Russians. One, two
Ah,
Russians,
yeah, I
the
think
Irish and
the
and
Irish.
Irish the
Okay,
Irish the
okay.
Irish are okay in terms of
Uh-huh.
the LGBT, but like
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Russians are
yeah.
just
We're saying
like
in generally speaking.
I mean like in terms of like messing with people, like you don't mess with the Russians
I
and
don't know,
Irish
man.
and
I feel like Russia can,
Germans too.
well, Germans, I think, have calmed down.
It's,
I think Germans were kind of misled by a man
yeah,
who wasn't even German. He was
yeah, German,
Austrian. But
yeah,
anyways, um, but I think Germany has calmed down quite a bit.
yeah. No,
But
I'm
with
just in
Russia,
terms of like strength and
yeah, but I
stubbornness
think
and
with Russia, I think the reason I have a really hard time giving them anything
yeah,
is because they invaded a country for no reason
yeah, yeah.
and killed people. I have friends that are
They
Ukrainian,
have
so
they have a
it's
they have
yeah.
a history of like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
not
No,
listen
I
to
know,
not
I
listen
know.
to certain countries, not not
No, they
agreeing. They want to be the one that the leaders of
yeah,
the
yeah,
world. So
yeah. No, they definitely have a history. Um, but I think like I don't know. Obviously, being very recent, and the last 5 years or so, it's totally unprompted invading Ukraine
mm,
just because you feel like people in Russia or Russians that are in Ukraine are need to be saved or something. It's
uh,
ridiculous. And you're in the meantime killing Ukrainian people
mhm,
and Russian people at that. So um I get up a really hard time giving Russia anything.
yeah,
And not Russia in general. I'm just talking like political leaders.
mhm,
So yeah.
uh,
Anyways, let's not talk about that. um so Moscow Mayor Yuri Letskov, I think is how you say it, has
mhm.
described the proposed Moscow Pride as satanic. Okay,
Say
okay,
say ta- say t-
satanic. He's basically saying, you gay? Satan has gone to you. Yeah, satanic.
yeah.
That brings satanic panic to a whole new level.
Hmm.
Lord. Um,
So when did
attempted, sorry.
they legalize it?
I
Yeah,
don't know. I don't know yet. We're gonna find
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Attempted parades have led to clashes between protesters and counter protesters, with the police acting to keep the two apart and disperse participants.
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, British activist Peter Tatchell was physically assaulted. This was not the case in the high profile attempted march in May 2009
Hmm.
during the Eurovision Song Contest, which is going on currently, I believe, and it's a big deal. Big
Hmm.
deal.
Hmm.
Fun fact, I didn't know this. Celine Dion had her start on Eurovision version. Vision. I'm fine. That is so cool.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Anyway, um, in this instance, the police played an active role in arresting pride marchers. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that has until January 20th, 2010 to respond to cases of pride parades being banned in 2006, 2007, and 2008. In June 2012, Moscow courts enacted a 100-year ban on pride parades. So
Jeez.
to answer your question, it's never been legal. It still isn't.
They have different laws down there. Jeez,
I mean,
like
it won't.
yeah, their laws are like compared to I mean China and Russia, their laws are like, you just like you gotta trend safely in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you gotta be like extra cautious.
Mm-hmm.
You can't act the same way in Canada or America
No,
the
because they're
same
not a
way.
democratic
Yeah, yeah,
country.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're communists. if I'm correct, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
I just know too, like from like again talking to my coworker who's Ukrainian,
Mm,
um, I know how kind of happened with like the war and everything. Um, just to put in perspective, like anything they watched on like TV or anything that was consumed had to do with their views on the reasons why they were invading Ukraine.
mm,
They were basically brainwashing people into believing their rhetoric of what made them or they had to invade Ukraine.
mm,
Um, you couldn't, yeah, like so if these bold people being brainwashed thought
mhm,
that
mhm, mhm,
they were for good reason invading Ukraine,
mm.
but they aren't, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah. I'm
that
just
just kind
not.
of goes to show.
Yeah. I'm just not surprised.
In
I'm
our
not surprised with
lifetime,
Russia. Yeah.
in our lifetime,
Yeah.
there will never be a gay pride parade in Russia. Like,
Yeah,
think about that.
Vladimir Putin is still in office, so like
Yeah, sure, it
it's
could change
yeah.
maybe,
No, it
but
won't. No,
it
it won't.
won't.
It
It
won't. It
won't
won't. It
change.
won't change. I like if he's still in office, like if it's been that long,
It's been
unless
there
a
a
new
long time.
is it the prime minister to call him
I
or is
don't
it?
know, and I don't care.
Let me see. Hold on,
I
I gotta
really
care.
don't care.
It's
I
Putin
if it's
is
someone else,
president of
then
Russia. Okay.
sure.
All
If
right.
it's somebody else, I really wouldn't care. But it's Vladimir Putin, and I don't give a
I mean, I think it's not just him. I think it's all Russians. I think that it's
yeah.
not unless there's a generation of Russian, young Russian uh people who take over the presidency in the near future,
Not if they're all being
and
brainwashed in this
or
way.
I don't know if they're all similar in a lot of ways. So like
Maybe. But like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
because
I really
like
don't.
a lot of people born in like let me see,
I don't care.
1952. Jesus,
But again,
he values old.
it's not that old. It's not like he's our grandparents or something. Maybe if we were, maybe
I
could
mean,
have been.
72 years old.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it's still not that old. I think it's not so much in this case, it's not his age, it's where he's from.
that
Because you have to
too.
remember, like, if it wasn't what's going on today with Russia, it was KGB, So it was
Mhm,
like KGB era was,
mhm,
what's the other, the Soviet Union. There's always kind of something going on with Russia, right?
mhm,
Um, so I think it's just a lot of that, you know,
mhm,
that in the country, of just their views on just how they run their country. It has
mhm.
nothing to do with his age. I mean,
I mean, yeah,
he's just generally a horrible person. Maybe
that
even more
too.
so
He's
than
or that too, but like you never know. Like there's probably other Russians that probably think differently than him if they were to take the mantle of being president
I'm sure
slash
there is.
prime minister.
I'm sure there
So
is, but
there's probably like a few out there, but like you never know. There's probably
it's
a
not
lot
gonna
that
be
think
those
like him.
people that are going to be in power.
Hmm.
You're not gonna have the people who are thinking like normal people. Because yeah, I'm sure the majority of Russian people are very normal.
Mm,
Um, but those are not the people who are gonna be in power. Those are just not it's just never gonna happen, not in this time. Maybe one day, but we're gonna be dead. So I really don't think when you're talking about a communist country,
mm,
that is never gonna change. It's never gonna change
mm.
because all about communism is controlling your people. So
Yeah,
yeah, I don't
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
If it's not him, it's someone else, honestly. Anyway,
Uh,
um, Spain. So I was actually incorrect. I don't know if it was illegal to be gay in Italy. I got it wrong. It was actually legal in Spain, not Italy. Um, so
Mm.
yeah, it was Spain. But Spain's first Pride Parade was held in Barcelona on June 26th, 1977. So that's great.
Oh, yes, Christ.
But it was violently repressed by police,
Mm-hmm.
as official attitudes towards the LGBT community had not yet changed much since Franco's death in 1975.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well,
Oh well.
I think a lot of that happens in different countries.
hmm
Also,
hmm
just on that issue, yeah. Yeah.
Turkey. Turkey was the first Muslim majority country in which a gay pride march was held.
Mm.
However, the parades have been banned nationwide since 2015. Authorities cite security concerns and threats from far right and Islamist groups, but
Okay.
severe
Okay.
police
Yeah.
retribution against marchers had led to accusations of discrimination tied to
Mm.
the country's increasing Islamization under
Mm.
President Eurogang. Gong?
Interesting.
Anyways, listen,
Interesting.
not everything in Turkey can be great.
I mean, possibly like there's probably I don't know, like yeah, you have probably different types of people. I think definitely when it comes to
Mhm.
being president. So, like, another president from that country, he's probably gonna lift those laws because I think 2015 is not a long time. I think
No.
yeah, it's not a
Yeah, no,
long
I think
time.
there's
So
definitely potential to be lifted.
it'll be easy lift
I
versus
think so.
Russia.
I mean, I think Turkey, I mean, I don't think that would be the case in every Muslim majority country.
Hmm.
But I do think Turkey is a little bit more laid back in comparison.
Hmm.
So I do
Yeah,
think like, yeah, there is possibility for that
yeah.
to be lifted.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure the population is growing and the LGBTQ community is over there. So
I
like
don't know.
it's growing. No, low key
No, I can't
growing.
even. Yeah, because I'm also just kind of thinking like,
Yeah,
again, Turkey's is kind of one of those countries we see quite a bit in the 90-day universe.
yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone who
Hmm.
identifies in the community. That's actually incorrect for those who
I
watch 90 Day.
I haven't, but like
Um, UK, there actually is someone
yeah,
from
yeah.
Turkey. Yeah.
I haven't seen one in Turkey, but like if it's like you said, it's been banned in 2015. I can think like if they were to lift it, I think it will be a big celebration if they were to
Mm,
lift it. Like it will be a lot of more people because like
yeah.
people are just probably celebrating low key,
Yeah.
so like in their own way. So like
Yeah.
basically,
But again, it's been 10 years, so that's
yeah.
still a long time,
And
kind
well,
of,
okay, yeah, once they lift it, there'll
if they
probably be the
lift
pop.
it.
Yeah, there'll be
We don't know if they will, but if they lift
I'm
it,
like
yeah.
if they did,
Mhm.
it'll be a party. It'll probably be a lot of people celebrating, like majority of people. It's like it's 2015, right?
Yeah.
And they've been like I want to say suppressed. So basically,
Who's
being
surprised?
suppressed for like 10. Huh?
Well,
Is
okay,
that too
well,
much a strong word?
no, I mean, maybe in this case, because they're
Okay.
not saying that, it's
Hmm.
illegal or it's bad to be gay or something in
Hmm.
Turkey.
Hmm.
What
Hmm.
they're just saying is that there's no parades. So I'm sure
Okay.
that, as much as that's
Okay.
like
Okay.
sucky, I'm sure there are still people, like you said kind of before, that are celebrating in their own ways, or, going to
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gay bars or
Yeah.
whatever. I'm sure there's still something that
Mhm.
you can do to celebrate,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
I'm guessing they're just probably saying celebrate on your own time. Don't celebrate
basically.
like
They'll
turn.
celebrate on our time.
Don't celebrate and
Yeah.
try to well, I'm not saying destroy the city, but don't celebrate, while,
Yeah.
on city's property, I don't know, commercially, I was saying,
Sure.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the UK. So there are five main Pride events in the UK LGBT Pride calendar:
yeah,
London, Brighton,
yeah,
Liverpool,
mm,
Manchester, and Birmingham, being the largest and are the cities with the biggest gay populations. So Pride in London is one of the biggest in Europe and takes place on the final Saturday in June or first Saturday in July each
Mm-hmm.
year. London also hosted a Black Pride in August and Soho Pride or a similar event every September. So it's pretty cool.
I'm not actually. I'm not surprised 'cause I do see that in some movies. In
I
there,
don't know if I've ever seen that actually.
like in a lot of the UK movies on Netflix, like
Hmm.
they do celebrate, you know, Black Pride.
Oh,
Yeah, I do.
I think that's actually
Don't remember
really
what movie, but
cool.
I did see it in one.
Yeah,
I see it in one. So
it's really cool. We should all be doing that.
yeah.
Um, During the early 1980s, there was a woman-only lesbian strength march held each year a week before the Gay Pride March.
Mm,
2012 saw World Pride coming to London.
mm,
Starting in 2017, there was a pride parade for the city's Black community, like we just said, that takes place the day after the main
mhm,
pride parade at the Vauxhall Gardens. In February 2018, the charity Stonewall announced that they would support Black Pride instead of the main pride parades.
mm,
Brighton Pride is held on the first Saturday of August, apart from in 2012 when the event was moved to September due to the 2012 Olympics.
right.
The event starts from the seafront and culminating at Preston Park.
Mm,
Liverpool Pride was launched in 2010, but by 2011, it became the largest free gay pride festival in the United Kingdom outside of London.
right.
Um, Liverpool's LGBT population was 94,000 by mid 2009, according to the Northwest Regional Development Agency. Manchester Pride has been running since 1985 and centers around the famous Canal Street.
Mm,
It is traditionally a 4-day celebration held over the August bank holiday weekend.
mhm,
Birmingham Pride usually takes place during the final spring bank holiday weekend in May and focuses on the Birmingham gay village area of the city with upwards of 70,000 people in attendance. Pride events also happen in most other major cities such as Belfast, Bristol,
mm,
Cardiff, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Hull, Leeds, Leicester, Newcastle, Nottingham, and Sheffield.
mm,
So let's jump into North America. Part of this is also going to be including the Caribbean.
mm,
So we'll talk about that. So it'll be interesting to see if Jamaica even makes this list because I don't remember if they do or not. So we'll see. Barbados. The island nation held its first Pride Parade in July 2018. It attracted a diverse group, which included members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community, allies of the community, tourists, and at least one member of the local
mhm,
clergy,
mhm,
who came out strongly in support of the LGBT movement. Um, Canada. So in Montreal, a Pride Parade is held in mid-August.
mm.
Why? It has taken place
Mid-August.
mid-August.
I mean, it's
Whatever.
June. Oh wait,
We're
June.
in June.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah, so 2 months
mean,
from now.
when wa- when was that? When was the year that
Hmm?
happened? When was the year that did that happen?
What happened? And when it
The
started?
Pride Parade on that year.
It started in 1979.
Oh, that's good. All right.
Um, so where are we? So in May 2003, Montreal Pride launched a comprehensive rebrand of its website and logo meant to signal that the nonprofit had moved on from the last minute cancellation of the 2002 parade, which was canceled due to the lack of organization.
Mhm,
Montreal Pride has hired 200 additional employees with event planning experience to ensure the August 13th, 2023, so that was 2 years ago, parade
mhm,
and well organized and prepared for the 100,000 expected attendees.
mhm,
Ottawa Pride Parade inaugurated in 1989.
mhm,
So that's when that one started. It looks like they do it, well, wait, it says capital city of Ottawa and its neighbor of, oh, it's just basically saying that's where Ottawa is situated. If you don't know that, it's capital city and it's right beside Gatineau, Quebec. I think I
Mm.
went into there. Anywho's, over the years, this event has significantly grown and is now a prominent fixture held on the fourth Sunday of August. It also
Mm.
does it in August. So
Or
weird.
also interesting. What is called Caravana was during that time.
The caravan happens in Toronto,
Toronto. Oh yeah,
right?
that's right.
Right.
Mhm. I thought it
Um,
happens in Cat. No,
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 just I'm pretty sure it's only in Toronto.
interesting.
Well, talking about Toronto, y'all. Toronto's Pride Parade has been held yearly or every June since 1981. The first Pride Parade in Toronto was held in June of 1981. In
Mm-hmm.
2003, its activists helped score a major victory when the Ontario Court of Appeals upheld a lower court ruling which made same-sex marriage legal in Ontario, the first jurisdiction in North America to do so. Woo woo. By this time, the
No.
Toronto Pride Week Festival had been running for 23 years. It is also one of the largest, attracting around
Mm-hmm.
1.3 million people in 2009. Um,
Oh, I could be an ass and just say not that's not good enough. You should have started in the 1970s. I'm just playing, but the
yeah,
1981 is good enough. So, but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
if it was like a lot, I'd be like, yeah.
But think of it this way too. That's when it was
Wow.
legalized in 1981,
Mhm.
but it could have been in the works a lot longer because
Yeah,
things take time.
yeah,
So
that's true. That's
yeah,
true.
yeah. Seeing as the states,
Need to do
they
better.
didn't legalize it for another 20 years or plus, 20 years plus, I should actually say.
Mhm,
We did pretty good. We did pretty
mhm,
good.
mhm, mhm.
So
Yeah.
Vancouver's Pride Parade takes place each year during the August long weekend.
Mhm,
Um, the so yeah, their August long weekend's a little different than ours, I guess. But yes, the parade takes place in the downtown core with over 150 floats moving alongside Robson Street, Denman Street, and along Davie Street. The parade has a crowd of over 150,000 attendees, with well over half a million attendants for the August 4th, 2013 Pride Parade. Um, so new for 2013 are the permanently painted rainbow crosswalks in Vancouver's West End neighborhood at
mhm,
Davie and Butte Streets. The city of Surrey in the Metro Vancouver area also hosts a Pride Festival,
mhm,
though on a much smaller scale. Um, Winnipeg also has the Pride Parade. I won't read everything, but it takes place annually over the course of several days and is one of the largest Pride events in central Canada with 10 days of community-based events and activities. Love
mhm,
that.
mhm.
Mexico. So we're coming out of Canada. The first gay pride parade in Mexico occurred in Mexico City in 1979.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I was surprised by
that's
them
great.
either.
Um, and it was attended by over 1,000 people. Ever since, it has been held annually under different slogans with the purpose of bringing visibility to sexual minorities, raising awareness about HIV/AIDS,
Mhm,
fighting
mhm,
homophobia, and advocating for LGBT rights, including the
mhm,
legalization of civil unions, same-sex marriages, and LGBT adoption.
mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm not surprised when by the Mexicans. Yeah, no, no.
I am. They're a pretty
Really,
conservative country as well. Yeah,
really.
they're
No,
very
no.
Catholic.
Mm,
So I am surprised by that. Um, But again, this is Mexico City, so Mexico City is a little bit more, you know,
I feel like they're more
a little bit
diverse
more
and
accepting, I think,
accepted. Yeah, they're more
than
diverse
in than
and
in other parts of Mexico, though.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Um, where we are now. So Trinidad and Tobago, its first Pride Parade was on July 27th, 2018. So that's a little bit
2018.
ago. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah. Trinidadians are stubborn.
Trinidad was
They're not as stubborn
true.
as Russians, but like they could be stubborn.
Yeah.
So I can see.
Would I say generally, because we have talked about the states already, so would I say
Mhm,
generally? The first Pride Parade was the Chicago Pride Parade. We talked about that. It has been hosted
mhm,
since 1970. It's the largest pride parade in Illinois.
Mhm.
Pride parades would eventually be greater media visibility and participation in the 1990s, which led to U.S. President Bill Clinton issuing Presidential Proclamation 7203, which declared June 1999 the
Mhm.
first National Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. In 2015, the Stonewall Inn was declared a historic landmark by the city of New York City, New York, should I say, which was then upgraded the next year by U.S. President Barack Obama to a national monument
Mhm.
because that's our president. So we'll skip past the rest of that because I don't want to talk more about that. But just as a note, we have gone through the Caribbean countries. Jamaica did not make the list, probably because
Mhm.
they don't do one. Um, so Australia,
Jamaicans haven't done one.
I don't think so. I highly doubt that. I highly
Yeah.
doubt that.
Yeah. No, they haven't legalized.
I don't think it's illegal. I
Yeah.
just don't think it's accepted.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think there's probably a small percentage of
Oh, there's gay people in Jamaica.
uh, yeah.
100% there's gay people in Jamaica.
But I think they're low key.
Mm-hmm. For
So
mainly their safety.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Australia, its first Pride marches were held during a National Gay Pride Week in September of 1973 and organized by gay liberation groups in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and Brisbane. Brisbane. There we go. Um, so yeah, they kind of have a Mardi Gras feel to their pride as well. New Zealand, Auckland's Pride Festival holds its Pride March in February every year. So a little
Mhm.
different.
Mhm.
Um, let's see here. What else we got? Let's head into South America really quickly. Brazil, they started theirs in 1997, and
Mhm.
in 2006, parade was named the biggest pride parade of the world at that time by Guinness World Records. That's
Mhm.
that's a pretty cool thing to have. What else we got? Chile. Did I get Chile? Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, their first one was held in 2006.
Mhm.
So again, not too long ago. Um, so we'll just kind of quickly talk about the opposition and then we'll be done. So
Okay.
there is an opposition to pride events both within LGBT and mainstream populations. As we've been talking, critics such as Gay Shame charge
Mhm.
the parades with an undue emphasis on sex and fetish related interests, which they see as counterproductive to LGBT interests and expose the gay community to ridicule.
Mhm.
So what, they like to have sex? Who cares? Don't we all? Like, and if you don't, that's really sad. Um, Various critics have denounced what they view as merchandisation of pride parades, while some religious and cultural groups oppose pride parades on ideological grounds and view LGBTQ plus identities and relationships as contrary to their beliefs and traditions,
Mhm.
as we talked about. These objections often lead to tensions and conflicts during pride events as LGBTQ plus individuals and their allies assert their rights to visibility and inclusion. Social conservatives are sometimes opposed to such events because they view them to be contrary to public morality. This belief is partly based on certain displays often found in the parades, such as public nudity, BDSM, paraphernalia, which is also a part of heterosexual culture as well, not
Mhm.
just gay culture, and other sexualized features. Within the academic community, there has been criticism that the parades actually set to strengthen heterosexual divides and increase essentialist views. In some countries, pride parades have been banned, as we've just talked about, with Russia, Turkey, and in Poland.
Mhm.
And that's that. I think, again, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
Do you, boo? You want to just be who you are. I think I said this at the end of another episode of The Ball. In the words of
Mhm.
Mama Monster herself, baby, you were born this way. So who gives a what else anyone else has to say?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if your country doesn't celebrate it, whatever.
No,
Just like
be
you know,
you.
be you.
In certain
So,
countries, though, I will say, just for safety reasons, just be
hmm
careful.
hmm
You shouldn't have to worry about being arrested just because you
yeah,
are who you are.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this ends episode 112 of the Next Tape podcast. The Next Tape podcast is available now on all podcast platforms. We also have a website called Tanika.
Nexttakepodcast.podpage.io.
And where else we on, Tanika?
Facebook and Instagram and Next Take Podcast and Twitter, TikTok, and Blue Sky and Next Take Pod.
You can email us at mikeltanika@gmail.com. That is mikeltanika@gmail.com. So we just basically talked about the history of pride parades, um, from different countries, how it's legal, not illegal, uh, in some countries. So yeah, I think this concludes the end of our Pride Month series,
No,
unless
this is our third episode. Our
oh,
fourth episode, which is
the
next
fourth
week.
episode. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, my bad. I was gonna say
This is our last
unless I'm
recording.
wrong, and then
Oh, yeah.
yeah, then
Yeah.
you just tell me, and then you just tell me. Okay, so I'm wrong, people. So we still have a fourth episode, all
Mhm.
right, and I'm going to most likely do that next week.
Yep.
Am I right? Yeah,
Yep.
next week. So stay tuned for that. And do you have anything else to say, Tanika?
No, that's it for me.
Okay. Um, yeah, I have nothing else to say. Just be positive and be happy in who you are. Don't worry about a certain country or, certain person that doesn't think it's uh that don't think it's allowed. Uh just be you. Just be who you are. All right? All right, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm Mikal, and
And Antonika,
we're out until
next week.
next week. Peace.
Bye.